If you grew up in the 70s, then you learned a lot about civics and English, sentence structure, parts of a sentence from Schoolhouse Rock. And so every time that I see that, how a bill becomes a law, they signed your bill, now you're a law. Oh, yeah. It just makes me happy. So I hope it makes you as happy as it makes me. Um, when I used to give more exams, there was always a question on the exam about how a bill becomes a law. There was always an essay question. Now there is a one quiz question that I will make sure that everybody gets, that looks at the process, compares the process. And just by the way, so the midterm was all writing, and but the final will be all multiple choice. So after today, we have another group day coming up, and on group day you will have a quiz, and so we always have quiz on group days. I don't know if you've noticed that. And so just make sure that you are familiar with this process, because I will make sure that that question is a standalone question that everybody gets. The rest of them will be randomized. All right, so let's talk about the process of a bill becoming a law. So a lot of it I have alluded to. So the bill is introduced. Bills can be introduced in the House, and bills can be introduced in the Senate. If it is introduced in the House, it will have HR and then some Arabic numbers. HR 1, HR 2592. If it is introduced in the Senate, it will have SR. There are sometimes resolutions, and those are going to have HJR. And a resolution is literally, this is just something that we think is important, and it is not a substantive bill. All right, so we are going to first talk about a bill going through the House of Representatives. So the bill is introduced, the bill is given a number, the bill is assigned to a committee. Every bill is assigned to a committee. So we know that in that committee there is a chairperson and there are committee members, and their job is to review this bill, study this bill, revise this bill, mark it up, and then vote on it. If it makes it through that entire process, they have hearings, they have people come in and testify. This is where interest groups show up. This is where you have people from the executive branch come in and testify. Then they vote, and if it gets a majority vote, then that means that it has a favorable report, and that report goes to the Rules Committee, where the Rules Committee decides how the bill will be treated, but it goes to the full body. So then, once the Rules Committee has set the rules, they say how long you'll be able to debate, whether or not the bill can be amended from the floor. They are going to use Robert's Rules of Order. So sometimes it can be really confusing if you're watching, because you'll hear them saying these odd words, point of order, and all kinds of odd stuff. But they use Robert's Rules of Order. In the House of Representatives, the Speaker of the House presides. and then the bill goes to the floor. So it is given a date, and on that date, um, based on whatever the rules committee said, people get up and say, I think you should vote for this, or I think you shouldn't vote for this. There's a lot of times, a lot of negotiations going on behind the scenes. This is when the whips come in and start whipping votes. So they're trying to convince people to vote for the bill or not vote for the bill. And sometimes you will hear leaders saying we have the votes, and that is because they have gone and spoken to individuals, and they know how many people indicate that they are going to vote for it. So you have the debate. If anyone has any amendments, any changes that they want to make, then they will propose those. They have to vote on any amendments, and then once the debate is over, then the full, and we are still at this point talking about the House, the full House will speak. House members will always have a limited time to speak. And that is determined by the Rules Committee, but they always have a limited time to speak. Once the bill if the bill receives a majority vote, and majority is 50% plus one, in the House of Representatives, I gotta pull out my calculator because I can't do math in my head. 435 divided by 2, that is 217.5 is half. So you have to have 219 people. So 218 plus one person, so 219 people have to agree for a bill to get a majority vote. So it goes to the Senate. So in the Senate, it's going to get a number. It is going to go to the committee that has the jurisdiction. The committee will work on the bill. Some of the committees have subcommittees. The subcommittees will do the heavy lifting, look at the bill, take testimony, mark it up, do investigations, and then they will vote in the subcommittee. Then they will send it to the full committee. The full committee will take the recommendation of the subcommittee, and they usually will vote for the bill, or they will table it. Say, we're not going to talk about this right now. So we're in the Senate now. In the Senate, they don't have a rules committee. There really aren't many rules. The rules are set at the beginning of the legislative session. One of the things that the Senate has been famous for. So after it comes out of the committee votes on it, it gets a favorable report, then it is supposed to go to the floor. Now, again, there is something that we have been seeing over and over again. The majority leader has simply not been pulling up bills that come out of committee. He's just not allowing them to be discussed. The Speaker of the House before Nancy Pelosi, Paul Ryan, did this as well. He at times just would not bring bills that had come out of committee to the floor. I honestly had never seen that before. I'd never seen that before. And it was not, I teach Texas government too. There's a Speaker of the Texas House. there is a lieutenant governor in Texas, and they play tricks. They tell committees to hold stuff up, but I have never seen just a flat, we're just not hearing this. I did not know until it started happening that this was a possibility. But the Speaker of the House and the majority leader in the Senate have a lot of power. So I was about to talk about filibusters. Since there is not a limit on the amount of time that senators can have to discuss an issue, one of the tactics that has been used in years past in the Senate is just talking about a bill endlessly to show that you think this is going to pass, but you don't think it should. So the record for filibusters is held by a senator named Strom Thurmond. Only rules for filibusters is that you have to physically stand the entire time. Really, there's supposed to be a rule that you have to stay on topic, but Ted Cruz did a filibuster where he was reading Dr. Seuss. He literally read Green Eggs and Ham. So apparently that rule is not always enforced. The Strom Thurmond did a filibuster for 24 hours and 18 minutes. He stood that entire time. He spoke that entire time. And there were not enough votes to get him to sit down. Now, this has gone back and forth. It is called a cloture. It is the only thing that will that can stop someone from filibustering, and the requirement has been for years 60 people have to vote to for you to stop a filibuster. In 2011, 13, somewhere in there, there was or it had to have been 2010, there was a Democratic majority in the Senate, and Republicans were filibustering just about every nominee that at the time Barack Obama was president. They were filibustering every nominee because they did not want him to be able to appoint judges. So they were using the tool that was available to minority parties to just keep talking and talking and talking and talking and block a vote. And the majority leader at the time was a senator from Nevada whose name was Harry Reid. So Harry Reid convinced the group to change the rules for a cloture. So they changed the rules for being able to stop a filibuster from a requirement of 60 people to a requirement of a simple majority for lower court judges. So Democrats had a majority at the time, so they were able to block filibusters with just votes from Democrats. Seemed like such a good idea. They were getting frustrated, and there were lots of positions that were just staying open because of the filibustering that was going on. It was quite short-sighted though, because after 2010 and the session that started in 2011, Democrats lost the majority. And now there's this rule on the floor that says that you can stop a filibuster with a simple majority. Now Republicans have the majority. So now you're the minority party and you don't want certain judges to make it in, you can't filibuster. So myopic, short-sighted. And to top it off, the eventually the majority leader, and it's been Mitch McConnell since 2011, decided that this would not just be for lower court judges, this would be for Supreme Court judges too. So um, we've seen some epic battles because the president gets to nominate, and now Republicans had a majority. Democrats couldn't filibuster, and so what Republicans were doing was just not confirming. They were just not confirming, and or they were confirming the people that they wanted to with and Democrats were not able to do anything about it, and they extended it to Supreme Court justices. So when President Obama was still in office, Antonin Scalia passed away. Antonin Scalia was very, 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 very conservative. They did not want Barack Obama's nominee to be on the Supreme Court to replace a conservative, and the Senate simply did not have a hearing. They wouldn't even meet with the person that President Obama nominated. Then Donald Trump was elected. So now they got on the ball. All those positions that they had successfully blocked or had and had just not put Obama's appointees on were being filled very quickly. And because you could, if you had a majority, block any filibusters, it tied Democrats' hands. So they're sitting there watching all of these seats be filled by people that they did not like. In some instances, they did not feel were qualified. And judges' positions are for life. And the people that were getting appointed, some of them had never served as judges before. Some of them had never practiced before. But they were very young. And so Harry Reid's gamble backfired. And then because you can confirm Supreme Court judges now with a majority, you don't have to have 60 votes anymore. Two Supreme Court judges were appointed, Neil Gorsuch and Brett Kavanaugh, without any Democratic votes. Because it used to be you had to convince people on the other side. So it made you be really careful about who you were nominating because you were going to have to get some votes from the other party. That is no longer true. Oh, I got far afield. We were talking about how a bill becomes a law. I'm sorry about diverting to a topic of great interest to me. We were on the floor, and so they do have debates and speeches, unlimited time period, but that is tempered by some rule changes. If the bill that comes through is not one, it ends up getting changed, or you have a bill that has been introduced and it's different from the bill that made it out of the House, then the bill will go to a conference committee. Very few bills go to conference committees. And then the conference committee works on a version that everybody can agree on. The president usually has some say in this process because the president eventually is going to have to sign the bill. So everybody is seeking input from the president because they want to know, if this bill makes it to your desk, are you going to approve it? So the president has a few choices. Once a bill is passed by a majority of both the House and Senate, then the president can sign the bill. Sign the bill, now you're a law. Oh yeah. So it becomes a law. President can also veto a bill. If the president vetoes a bill, says, no, I don't like this one, there is a provision in the Constitution that allows 2/3 of both the House and Senate to override the president's veto. This is very rare. Most of the time, you don't have 2/3 of the people that are so approving of a bill in the House and Senate that they have enough to override a presidential veto. And so, if the president vetoes it, usually that's the end. But there is a provision. If the president does not sign a bill, that bill becomes law in 10 days. Unless the bill goes to the president's desk and then the chambers go into recess. So they dismiss and everybody goes back home. If the president does not sign a bill during a recess, then that bill is vetoed. And so the picture that you should get in your mind is that the president puts it in his pocket. And so we call that a pocket veto. The president just sits on it. It will not become a law. So that is the process, with my heavy detours, of a bill becoming a law. The question deals heavily with the 5 steps. So committees, when they get the bills, they are going to decide whether or not they are going to address it. 90% of bills die in committee. They just never look at it. They never do anything with it. If they decide that they are going to do something with it, one of the things that they can do is revise it. They can change wording. They can change amounts. They can change dates. And that is called marking up. It's part of committee action. Then they have a vote. The majority decides whether or not the bill will be passed. If the bill does get a majority vote in the committee, then it goes to the full floor. The House has a rules committee. They decide scheduling and rules. One of the big things that they decide is whether or not it's going to be closed or open. If it is closed, you cannot amend the bill while it's being debated. If it is open, the bill can be amended while you're in debate. Now, certainly if you introduce the bill, and members of Congress are the only ones that can introduce bills. Presidents can't even introduce bills. You have to be a sitting elected member of Congress to introduce the bill. If you introduce the bill, you certainly want it to have a closed rule. You don't want people amending it at the 11th hour. We talked about the filibuster. We talked about the cloture, which at this point has really gone away because you just have to have a majority to end a filibuster. You can add riders to bills. This is the way that pork, remember we talked about pork barrel. This is the way that pork makes its way into bills. This is how you get in odd little money for your district. This is how you get money for a bridge to nowhere. You just add it in there. Now, one thing that the president cannot do is go through and go, what is this? I like the bill, but I don't like this. The president can only approve the entire bill or veto the entire bill. That is called a line item veto, where you can just mark out the parts that you don't like and just veto that part. President doesn't have it. There was a period of time when Congress approved to give the president the line item veto, but then there was a lawsuit and it was very quickly found to be unconstitutional. So Bill Clinton had line item veto for a hot second. But the Supreme Court said that was unconstitutional. So our presidents do not have it. Then the full membership debates, proposed changes, they vote, it goes through, they whip it, they vote, and then it goes to the other chamber. If it is something that party leadership finds important, then they will take that bill up and work on it themselves. They will direct floor debate. They'll work with the committees. Sometimes they'll even go talk to the president. About 10% of bills that pass both chambers end up having differing versions. So about 10% of bills go to conference committees. And again, once the bill does make it through to the president, even after all that work, the president does have the option of saying, no, I don't like it. Vetoing the bill. So the president can sign the bill, the president can veto the bill, where it can be overridden by a 2/3 vote, or the president cannot sign the bill, in which case it will become a law unless Congress is not in session, and then what happens is that it is pocket vetoed. So, for the most part, they considered the founders, when they were writing the Constitution, Congress to be the sole policy-making body. Definitely, as time has progressed, a lot of that responsibility or power, I should say, has been shifted over to the president. So now, when presidents announce initiatives, Congress has to work with them. Goodness, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, when he was proposing all of these new departments and these new programs and all these new jobs, he was telling the public that what he wanted to do for them. And so then people were like looking at their congressman going, well, I want this. I want that job. You need to vote for this. So he kind of forced the hand of the legislature, because their constituents were like, we're not going to vote for you if you don't vote for this. We want this. We want mortgage protection. We want our funds to be protected if they go to a bank, to be insured. We want farm subsidies so that we're getting money from the federal government. Even if we are not able to grow a good crop, we want to be guaranteed certain money. They liked the ideas. And so Congress kind of just went along at some point, because they were starting to look bad. let's talk about the major functions of Congress. We have spent quite a bit of time talking about lawmaking, and definitely that is the primary function of Congress. But there are others. Another is that they are representatives. They serve the interests of their constituents. They answer their constituents' questions. They help their constituents out. And then the third one is oversight. Presidents do not like this because it literally means that members of Congress, once they pass the laws, then it goes to the executive branch to actually do it. Whatever the law says, the executive branch executes. So, because it was passed by Congress, they are authorized to go and see, are you doing it right? Have you made some mistakes? Are you spending the money the way that we said we wanted it to be spent? Have you made any rules that are not working? So then they pull in members of the cabinet to testify. And we have seen this over and over and over again. The VA had some problems a few years back where they made rules in the VA that said you got bonuses if you were seeing your veterans, if you were getting your veterans through in, I want to say it was like 10 days, that you were processing them in 10 days. Now, if you're a veteran, you know that that is laughable. But what they were doing was cooking the books. So many Veterans Administration offices were, they would enter a person's name and then they would take it out on the 9th day and enter it again. So, and they would keep doing that till they actually had the person was actually seen. So it always looked like the person was seen within the time limit. And so the head of the VA in that area was getting bonuses. And I don't know if we want taxpayer money that is in the VA to go to the leaders of the VA in bonuses. I think we would much rather that that money be spent in resources on our veterans. But and the way that they found out about it was somebody told it. And I remember in Phoenix, there were a couple of veterans that were seriously ill. And while they were playing these games and putting their name back in, the person had stage 4 cancer and passed away while they were doing this. And so they pulled in the veterans, the Secretary of, I don't even know what it is, what the Secretary of Veterans Secretary, maybe that's what it is. I can't remember the cabinet position. And they were like, well, dude, what happened? I don't think they used those words, but that's the Madelyn version of the hearing. Dude, what happened? And he was flabbergasted. He was like, everybody is telling me that everything is going well, that everything is running smoothly. I did not realize that there were any problems. I didn't even really know about this policy. I certainly did not know that people were playing games, or they were either not entering the name until they actually had an appointment, or they were re-entering their name every 9 days so that they would not, so that it would look like they had been seen within the time period. And they were like, well, how could you not know? How could isn't that your job? Your job is to know. And so this was during the Obama administration. And so usually what happens after they pull people in and they are like, what did you do? Um, if it looks like there was a mistake made, then you see the person say that they need to spend some more time with their family. They're resigning because they need to spend some more time with their family, and that's definitely what the veteran secretary said. I'm resigning because I need to spend some more time with my family. But basically, what had happened was the president had told him, "You need to quit because if you don't want me embarrassing you, then you go ahead and say you resigned." We have always done this exercise in my classes where we do a word cloud. And so, I just ask the question, what one word comes to your mind when you think of Congress? Hmm. Um, and some of the words that I get are dysfunctional, um, fighting, um, not very smart, inept. I, it, it has been a long time since the United States Congress had a very high approval rating. The last time that it was over 60% was in 2001. And I think that may have been Contract with America time. Oh no, 2001. That was when they were first making the decisions about um, how to deal with what had happened on September 11th. We were pretty unified as a country during that time, but very quickly it fell off. This chart stops in 2015. It has dipped as low as like 22%. 2015 it was right under 30. 2000, I'll look at the numbers and tell you what it is right now. So Gallup is one of the a very well respected polling agency. The other one is Pew. A lot of the information that we have seen in the charts in this book come from Pew Research. This is a Gallup poll, though, August to September 2020. 17% approval rating of how Congress is handling its job. 80% disapprove, 3% have no opinion. And goodness, it's been the highest that it has been in the last few years is 20%. Ooh, December 2011, it was down to 11%. So it has been a while. And it's very interesting because Congress has these low approval ratings, but incumbents keep getting elected. So I think there this I don't like Congress, but I like my congressman sentiment that keeps incumbents coming back. So we've been talking a bit about oversight. I do have a tendency to do that. I talk and then I show the words. Um, and so there is this function that the House and the Senate have. They can investigate things that are going on in the White House. with any of the cabinet members, anything that they have a question about, we do not want, at least that was the way it was written to the Constitution, we do not want presidents or cabinet members to have a job that goes unchecked. We are serious about checks and balances in the United States. So every now and then there are questions that Congress asks that the White House decides that they're not going to give, because they say that giving that information could affect national security. That is called invoking executive privilege. We have seen unprecedented actions in the Trump administration. And this is not throwing shade. I'm just saying that we've never seen anything like this before. And it is not even invoking executive privilege, not showing that it would affect national security. We have literally had people that have been called in to testify that are like, well, the president doesn't want me to. Are you invoking executive privilege? Is the president invoking executive privilege? Well, no, not exactly. I'm just not going to say anything because the president doesn't want me to. And we've never seen that before. Even Richard Nixon invoked executive privilege, and he said he did it explicitly, and there was a lawsuit about whether or not executive privilege was proper. But he followed the tradition. President Trump has just said, no, I don't want you to testify. I don't want you to tell him that. I'm not saying that it's privilege. I'm just saying that I don't want you to. And because Congress is so much a creature of habit and rules and traditions, that it's like they were blindsided. They're like, you can't do that. you can't, and apparently you can't. So we have seen unprecedented partisanship in our Congress. And it has made for some epic fights, some name calling. It is the tradition of Democrat leaders and Republican leaders getting together with their friend that was from the other party and negotiating something has pretty much gone away. And that's really kind of been since the 90s, the mid 90s. There is increasing partisanship. The best predictor of whether or not somebody is going to vote for legislation is what party they're in and what the party says, what their caucus says. So, we even saw, so I'm just going to just give you some commentary. 2018, we had several new members of the House of Representatives get elected, and many of them were Democrats. And many of them, when they were running, they were promising that they were not going to vote for Nancy Pelosi as Speaker of the House. So that was the dynamic. If you elect me, I promise you that Nancy Pelosi, who is has been vilified and is not very popular, will not be my choice for Speaker of the House. So a lot of Democrats got elected. Democrats got a majority, but a lot of those people that got elected had made promises that they were not going to vote for Nancy Pelosi. So Nancy Pelosi, who is 80, she just turned 80 or is about to turn 80, had been Speaker of the House before. So she is the person with seniority and has been the minority leader for years. started working. She started working. She started making promises. She started talking to people. She started negotiating. Um, and eventually she had the votes. Because you just have to get a majority. She allowed some of the, she just counted and made sure that she had 219. And so she was elected as the Speaker of the House. And so probably the most vocal of the people that said I don't think I'm voting for Nancy Pelosi was a congresswoman from New York whose name is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. And she arrived there and she said that she wasn't going to be voting for Nancy Pelosi. She opposed Speaker Pelosi once she got the job. She had some epic battles with Nancy Pelosi. But eventually we saw that she got quiet. So you will hear her say, I don't know if I agree with that. Every now and then you'll hear her say, I don't know if I can vote for that. But I have not heard her in the last full year say anything about Nancy Pelosi, about Nancy Pelosi's leadership, about the Democratic Party going in the wrong direction, or anything in defiance. So eventually they were able to convince her and several of the other Congress people that the best way to get things done is to work with the group. That's where your power is. And you can almost see it happening in real time. There were several tweets and several things against Nancy Pelosi and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez saying you don't understand how much power I have because I have a social media presence, and so I can talk directly to the people, and then boom, it stopped. So it is nice to work within a framework, to be able to convince people to put things in bills that you want because you are part of the group and they want you to go along with the group. But it just, if you have watched any committee hearings, there is so much animosity, so little collegiality, so much ugliness within our Congress. And apparently it's not a good look because their approval ratings are pretty low. All right, so that finishes chapter 11. You will have a quiz on chapter 11 in our next class period.